I have one question for you. Who is going to bring the fun?
You're in the honky tonk with Todd, the Data Cowboy.
All right, that is the question we are going to answer today. Who is going to bring the fun? We're going to answer that question and many, many more on today's Bring the Fun podcast. The podcast, this introduces the most fun people in the line dance industry to all of you line dancers out there all over the world. If you know anybody or you think of anybody that you think is the most fun person that you've ever met in line dancing, definitely let me know. I'd love to interview them, love to get them on the podcast. You can email me or you can hit me up on any of the social media, or you can email me at I'm in at bringthefun.dance. Remember, it's .dance, not .com. So let us know who you want to hear from this year on the Bring the Fun podcast. We're going to do at least one a month, if not every 1 or 2 weeks. And we are super, super excited to have one of my favorite line dancers in the country. So who's going to bring the fun? We have a super exciting guest with us today on the podcast. She hails from Houston, Texas.
Woo-woo.
She runs Cross the Line Dance Houston and is the organizer and founder of the Line Star State Awards. Not the Lone Star State, the Line Star State Awards. I love the name of it.
Yes.
So welcome to the podcast, Britt Beresik.
Hey, Todd. Thanks for having me on. I'm so honored to be, going through this little podcast with you and getting to just share my love of everything going on, especially here in the state of Texas. So thank you for having me on.
Well, we appreciate your time. We know that you've been super busy. You have an incredible family. You have all these other things that are going on. So we appreciate you spending some time with us today on the podcast. Britt has definitely become one of the darlings in the line dance industry. I just love this girl. She's an incredible dancer, super bright light in the industry. Whenever she is at an event, just incredible. And she always shines whenever they do any of the performances. She's always out there right in the middle. I just absolutely love it. She is probably my favorite representative, or one of the best representatives of Texas. She represents that state so well. She's always out there, representing Texas. She even was just on national TV up in New York City, in Texas. So I love it. So I can't wait to hear more about that, more about what you are doing in the line dance industry, but want to take a step back and walk through your whole line dance journey and get to know you. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in line dancing.
Yeah, I love these questions because it really had me reflect and think back about the beginnings of Britt. I've been dancing really since I was a little kid, but of course that background is more in your, little girl dance studio, ballet, tap, jazz, that type of thing. And I was on my high school dance team, and I'll get to that just as a character development thing. But yeah, growing up and going to college and stuff, I really started feeling a lack of dance in my life because you got away from those competition teams and things like that I was used to. And I felt this void, like not myself, because I just didn't have the dance. And I tried to seek it out by signing up. A really funny story, because I signed up for an adult jazz and tap class in my local town, and it was not a huge town. This is up in Northeast Texas. And I go and I show up, and here I am, 25 years old, like not quite in college anymore, but not quite having kids. And I show up to this adult class, and the next oldest adult was 18. And I'm going, I feel so old, at 25 years old. I'm like 7 years older than the next adult. And I'm thinking and I basically almost felt like I was going to give up dance at that point, because I married a man that doesn't really dance a lot. He'll go humor me on a date night or something, but it's not something he's into. And it just felt like, where am I going to find dance? And in the last place I would have thought, in the back of a bowling alley in northern Michigan, I discovered a line dance class, and I thought, this is kind of cool, I guess. And it just kind of blossomed from there. And the deeper and deeper I delved into the line dance world, the more and more I discovered it and fell in love with it. But it's funny because as a Texas girl, it took me getting to northern Michigan on an oil and gas assignment with my husband to find and discover this passion, and then to find out it's not really, and as a Texas girl, it's not really prominent in a lot of the dance hall communities in Texas. So
yeah, I was gonna ask you, how did you like take on and become so good at line dancing when Texas is really known for, two-step? You
well,
don't
not
hear
having a
much about it.
partner and discovering the line dance world and what it could do, I just latched on and I thought, by God, I'm going to grow it if it kills me. So yeah, I started some classes out when we moved in West Texas, just from scratch, just putting out flyers saying, anybody want to come line dance? We'll do it, And then coming to Houston and just continuing kind of almost grassroots style, just continuing to connect with anybody else that wanted to do it. And the word that I'm going to keep circling back to is community, because you can't do it without people. And just making the friendships and connections, getting instructors talking and networking, just trying to grow it that way. But it was definitely not something that I grew up, immersed in here. And so it's been something I feel like I've actively had to push and help nurture. And I'm sure most Texas instructors would say the same thing. I'm not unique in that at all, but I feel like we're finally getting there where, it's actually becoming a forefront and an appealing thing for a lot of dance halls now. Like, oh, we want to have line dance classes. And it's like, wow, when did this happen?
Yeah, you have done an absolutely great job of representing line dancing in Texas and getting all the instructors and choreographers, everybody organized and promoting it. I know that you do like monthly, like top lists of dances and get everybody, all psyched up about what's happening and what are the hot dances. And then you also started Line Star State Awards.
Yes,
Tell
that's
us a
pretty
little
recent.
bit about kind of like how you came up with, the name is very cute, and your company name, Cross the Dancing Houston. How did you kind of develop all of that, and how did that expand?
I never honestly wanted to have a class and say Britt's line dance class. It just didn't feel right. I don't feel like I'm into self-promotion in a sense. I'm great about I'll put my passion and I'll put my whole self in 1,000%. But this is, again, a community thing, that word again. And so coming up with a name, you want something catchy, something that sounds fun, something that sounds, ooh, that sounds intriguing. I wonder what that is. And just kind of making sure line dance is in the title. So that's where Across the Line came about. That would be a whole nother podcast altogether with the development of all of that. But that name was started out in West Texas. And then just to kind of continue, again, that community thread. So that's why it specifically is Cross the Line Dancing Houston, because there is a Cross the Line Dancing out in West Texas too, which is the OG group. And through our Texas events, it's really nice to be able to kind of meet up and merge those worlds together and bring the Houston and the West Texas group back together. But for the Line Star State Awards, that all kind of came about. Nothing I've done has been like, contrived. Nothing has been like, what is the goal for this? It's kind of been something fluid that's developed, organically over time. And with COVID, everything, as you know, went virtual. And so we were having to do things online. And I started a Facebook group called the Texas Online Dance Party, because there was an event, a very prominent event. In fact, the Jamboree, not the party, but the Jamboree was celebrating its 30th anniversary this next year. So it's been around a long time. It was canceled due to the pandemic, and we decided to kind of throw a non-affiliated, like I said, grassroots community organized version of it online over the pandemic, and I spearheaded that. After that event happened, it was like, well, let's keep this Facebook group going. We're going to transform this into the Texas online dance mission, referencing Texas missions like the Alamo and stuff, but also like our mission being our goal to grow line dance and to connect instructors all over the state. So then having that group for a couple of years, I started a poll inspired by some of the polls I see in other foreign countries. Dave Morgan does a poll where he does the Teach of the Week poll over, he's based in the UK. And I thought, that's great. Let's do a Teach of the Month poll. We don't need to poll weekly, but let's do a Teach of the Month poll here in Texas and get our instructors and our dancers weighing in. So after a couple years of collecting monthly input, I said, we got to do something with this, right? So how about all of these monthly dances, because we kept track of the top 10 each month, that becomes our nomination pool. And at the end of the year, we'll just vote on which ones were our favorite teachers of that year. So that's how the Line Star State Awards came about. So annually, anybody affiliated in any way with Texas, whether you're an instructor or a student, or even some of our choreographers who might teach here regularly at HOT or come in for the jam or come in for some of our Yellow Rose events, they could participate too. Anybody who is just within the year coming to Texas for an event, you can weigh in. And so vote on your favorite dances out of those nominees. And you could write in a vote if you want. And those, we have a top dance in each level based on the Copper Knob, just standard levels of absolute beginner, improver, intermediate, advanced. So we got to just celebrate that in February, and I get to send those little words out to our choreographers around the world. That tells them we're Texas and we're paying attention to what's going on and we've got our favorites. But then it also kind of draws our Texas dancers to look outward because they're going, oh, I didn't know that this person, wrote this dance. And so some of our newer dancers who maybe aren't as, connected or don't go to as many big events, it's getting them to kind of be engaged and involved and making them want to weigh in on these dances and these votes. So Line Star State, obviously playing on the Lone Star State and just trying to bring in that line dancing, connection any way I can. So yeah. And
that's fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I am really excited though. And I'll tell you this, Todd, because this is kind of an exclusive. This is like firsthand. You're hearing it from me. I really want to have an in-person event. I've been scheming this for a couple of years. We've been doing our awards virtually, but I'm setting a goal that in 2027, I know that seems so far off, but we've got a few events that are kind of in transition right now in Texas. So I think in 2027 is the goal to start an in-person Line Star State Awards event. And it'll be a one day, but we're going to celebrate those nominees and get our glam on, kind of crystal boot style, and bring our Texans and anyone else who wants to join us together and just kind of have a nice kind of awards night. So
that will be phenomenal. Yeah, I know you mentioned it when you were giving out the awards this year.
Yeah.
So that's great. I hope everybody gets behind that and let me know the dates because I would love to come down and participate in that for sure.
It's all about venue. So I got to get that, squared away, those contracts in place, and then maybe we'll be able to, put that out on blast. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So a little bit more about you. What or who inspired you to become a dance instructor? When did you decide to actually start teaching dance?
Sure. I had mentioned earlier that, I do have goals and I do have passions and I do, look up to people and I think that would be really cool to do that. But I tend to be a self-doubter and go like, oh, that's kind of the dream. Like, would I ever be in that position? I remember going to my first event ever. It was Dancing for the Dream in Lubbock, Texas. And Joe Thompson was there. My first exposure to, a big name. And I'm watching Joe up on stage and thinking, how does she do that? how does she do this for a living, or how is she known for this? And this is what she does, and goes around and teaches. And I think like, wow, maybe by the time I'm like 50 or 60 years old, I'll eventually work my way and be able to do something like that one day, and not really trying to put pieces into place to actually make it happen. And I'll never forget, co-dancer of mine, she'd been dancing far longer than me, Nancy Pollock. She turned to me and she said, "That's gonna be you." And I'm like, no, are you kidding me? And yeah, so things kind of happened because I was always stepping in where I was needed. I feel like a soldier in a sense, like there's a need, I'm right there. I'm going to fill in that void, and I'm going to help out. And directors know I'm going to give it my all, 110% and more. If it kills me, I'm going to show up, bells and whistles on, teach every dance that any dancer there might want to know, and whether it's mine or not. And especially when it comes to the shows, just give it my all, come full costume, give them the full Brit that I can. And it's all just about making that experience and that event the best it could be. So going back to becoming an instructor, it was the same way at the beginning. I did it out of a need, like, let's grow this community. And I just want to dance. So I didn't start any classes thinking I'm going to be the instructor and everybody's going to follow what I do. It was kind of like, come on, guys, come over here. Let's dance. Maybe I'll lead a few and you can lead a few, we'll just make it happen so we can all dance together. But over time, I think just my dance background and leadership abilities and stuff just kind of took a forefront in a sense. And people are like, no, you go ahead, you can lead. And I'm like, no, doesn't anybody else want to step up? And they're like, no, you go ahead. And so you just kind of get put in these positions, and you either sink or swim sometimes. You take it on and you embrace it. And I'm the type of person, I don't do anything halfway. So I aimed to become a better and better instructor with every class I taught. Believe me, I was right there with all the newbies, reading the step sheet like as I go, and in front of the class going, okay, everybody step to the left, everybody step to right, with the paper in my hand. Everybody starts off somewhere, and don't be afraid to take that leap, because you'd be amazed. I feel like teaching now is second nature to me because I've been doing it for so long. But
yeah, I mean, anybody that's taken any of your classes or any of these events, I mean, you are just spot on, everything, super positive, helping everybody, great, technique, and just your pace of teaching is so nice, so refreshing. And people just love it. And so you've definitely had all the skill sets. I think you just need to be put in that right spot, and you just blossom like crazy.
You nailed. I mean, I'm not going to pat myself on the back ever, but it kind of felt that way. Like I felt like I slipped into the glove of what I was meant to do. It just felt right. And I just felt like God gave me some tools that I naturally was able to use. And I felt like this was just a path that was meant for me. Yeah, it feels really good to feel good about yourself and to feel like you're good at something, and people are complimenting you about, what a good job that you do at it. It's funny that you mentioned pace, because this actually came up in my class last night. I said, I feel like I talk, a mile a minute, but I'm a Texan, and my dad's, got that West Texas draw. And when I watch myself back on recordings, I go, man, I talk slow. And all the students are like, no, that's great. We can understand.
You got it. You got it right in between, right in the perfect spot. So how did kind of the transition, or when did you start thinking about doing actually choreography in line dancing? Did that happen kind of the same way, or did somebody else encourage you, say, hey, we should do this?
It was all of the above, to be honest. Early on in my teaching days, I would have a student come up to me and say, hey, let's dance to this song. And I'd go, cool. And I'd look it up on Copper Knob, and there wouldn't be a dance. And I'd search on YouTube, and there wouldn't be a dance. And I would go, I'm a people pleaser. And I'm like, I really want to make my student happy so they'll come back. I was at those early stages. I'll take any student I can get, right? Like, so let's make this person happy. I guess I'm going to have to just kind of make up a dance or piece together a couple dances to make it fit this song. So that was a couple of the early ones. And I shake my head because if you look on Copper Knob, like my first dance, I'm not even going to talk about it, not even going to go there. But if you look at it, it's like, yeah, that was what that dance was for. Just slap some steps together, get it out there so my students could, review it and look at it, the next coming weeks. But it was never meant to be like something I meant to really be a big deal. But then things kind of fell together. I started going to Vegas Dance Explosion, and I saw some friends of mine compete in the choreography competition there. In fact, I helped, you can demo the dances with them. And I thought that's a cool challenge. And I'm always looking for the next way to better myself. Here you don't necessarily hit a wall, but you grow it up. Oh, now I'm going to go from the beginner dances to the improver. Now I'm going to go from the improver to the intermediate. Now I'm going to do advanced. What's after that? I guess I'll start writing some dances just for fun. And so I entered the Vegas Dance Explosion choreography competition, just trying something new. You only live once, right? And I said I'd circle back to the dance team stuff, and this is a good time to do it. I didn't place at all. I stunk. My dance I still kind of like what I did, but I know why it didn't really work. I chose a good song. I think I was going for the uber creative moves rather than necessarily something doable. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't place, and it hurts. It hurts every time that happens. I don't care how successful you are. Whenever your work, especially creative work, is rejected in a sense, and it's based on opinion, right? It's not like who can dance the fastest, it's based on somebody's opinion. It always hurts. And it makes you take a step back and go, man, I don't know if I want to ever do that again, right? Because that sucked. And everything shut down after that. We had the pandemic. And here a friend of mine sent an ad for a virtual choreography course hosted by Mr. Rob Fowler, one of the masters in line, right? And I thought, that is so cool. I think Rob's choreography is awesome. I had taken many classes from him in Las Vegas. And I thought, what's the harm? I'm going to pay my dollar, sign up, and just see how this goes. But I learned so much in his class. I will always be forever grateful to Rob for the wealth of knowledge that he shared and the time that he put together for everybody who signed up for his classes. And really, we all latched on together during that pandemic because we had nothing else. So daily, I was waking up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to tune in to a choreography class in the UK. That was every day. And I stayed with that from about May through January. So it was over 6 months' time. He encouraged us to put forward projects and send in videos, and he would critique and break it down and say, how about you edit and change this little bit? How about you change this little bit? And he gave us some foundational advice about, keeping the dance centered, where you stay on an X, you return back so it doesn't travel off the floor, the structure of breaking down a song. I mean, it was just incredibly helpful.
And
so
about
I felt
how many dances did you choreographed up to that point?
So before his class, I probably had choreographed, I did a couple for fun, a couple for probably 3 for the Vegas competitions leading up to it, but that had gotten canceled before I even competed all of them because of COVID. So probably 5 or 6 total before his class. And a lot of them were just kind of piddling around. And some of them, I think, looking back, I did a pretty decent job. And then some of them after his class, I went, I see why that wasn't a great dance now, So
and
you
so
live
did that
and learn.
completely change your process of choreographing and song selection.
It did. It did. But then it's not just Rob's influence. It's been every instructor and every choreographer I have learned either dances from on my own or taken workshops from. John Robinson, I signed up for his Patreon program and took advice from him. I feel like I am a fly on the wall. I will watch choreographers and the way they work and take those classes at events, even though I've done this a ton of times. Let me see how Niels does this. Let me see how Yvonne Verhagen does this, you know? Let me see how Darren works this out as he's doing the Windy City stuff. It's just always being a student and always trying to better yourself. But that Rob Fowler class did really kind of put me at a reset. I went back, it's musicality, you know, going to the structure of the song. Sometimes less is more. You don't want to put in way too much. You got to give the dancers breaks. You want good restarts. You want to face the front at the end if you can. You want to come back to your X. You want steps that flow. There's all of these components. So I do feel like I have a system that works pretty well now when I write dances. Integrity when it comes to choosing music. That was a huge thing that is, it's kind of a lot of choreographers, not going to call out anybody, but a do as I say, not as I do, because everybody says, don't use the same song as somebody else. And that very person that said that, you will see them use a song by someone else. And I could probably name a few on one hand that I have never seen do that. But it does really give you that lesson in integrity of what is okay to write to and what is okay not to write to, and having open communication, reaching out to those people who already have a dance to that song and saying, hey, do you mind if I write a dance to this? You know, and just kind of maintaining a cordial friendship over it if you can. But yeah, my whole process changed after that course, as well as just the little nuggets that I have taken throughout my entire line dance life. So coming, and I always look to Joe and Darren and John Robinson and Roy Verdonk and Rob Fowler. Those have been like the key, like just idols that I watch their process. And I can't leave Niels out. Niels is a good one too.
Yeah, I mean, they're all fantastic, super enjoyable to be around.
Yes.
Really, really nice.
Not just in person, but the way that they do their craft.
Yeah, their craft, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as your craft, how do you decide on which dance combinations and which dance steps and things that you use? Are there certain ones that you really enjoy, always kind of like including, or is it a wide range depending on the music?
It's always led by the music, but I will say I am truly, truly drawn. You'll see a common thread in a lot of the dances that I've done. Lyrics. I love lyrics, and I love a song that tells a story. So if a song can communicate a story and also almost write the dance for you in a way, the best example I can give you of one of mine is Twists and Turns, because there are so many words in that dance that it says fall away. I had to put a fall away diamond in there. The twist and the turn movement, you know, there's all those little nuggets in there that it almost wrote itself, you know. And I just feel like as a dancer growing up, I was in a competitive high school dance team where we did lyrical, and it's all based on expressing the words of a song. And then you can close your eyes almost when you're on the dance floor and feel like you are a part of that music. So that is the end goal for me, is to connect the dance as much as possible with the song. So
yeah, I don't think a lot of dancers understand that depth of thought that goes into choreograph.
Yeah,
because anybody can be a choreographer. Anybody can write up a step sheet, make up a dance, probably like you did at the very first beginning. You're like, I can make it up. And that's one of the things I love about this podcast, is talking to people that have done it for so long, have seen so many variations, so many professionals in the industry, and how they've developed their craft. So I really appreciate what you say about that.
Yeah.
So tell us on the other side, like what have been some of the challenges that you've faced in the line dance business or just in the whole industry?
I'd say the biggest challenge, and I don't like harping on any negativity at all, but the biggest challenge overall, as much as it is a positive, it can be a negative, and that is our community. And although you always want to look for the highlights and the good moments, don't allow opinions of other people to affect your love of what you do. And I think social media is a great tool, and I use it almost way more than I should. I'm glued to my phone half the time. But in that, people can be keyboard warriors, and because they're sitting behind a screen, all of a sudden they say things that maybe they wouldn't say to you to your face. And so you can have to develop a little bit of a thick skin, because you can't let those types of things affect what you love and what you want to do. So not to get too deep into it, but I feel like there's always going to be the haters and people that the better sometimes you do, I'm not going to say the envious or the jealousy comes out, but you just have to continue to smile, continue to push forward, continue to focus on that apple, that like love of dance, and connect with those people that help feed in that positivity, and just keep going forward. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I'm on social a lot, and whenever I see any of that negative things going on, I'm like, hey, or I'll mention something, people start criticizing. I'm like, we are all here just to have fun. I'm here to bring the fun. That is
yes.
my purpose in life. I'm here to bring the fun. I'm here to have everybody enjoy themselves. They're not doing it quite exactly the way you would think they should do it or whatever. If they're having a blast, that's the goal. And so yeah, I think people get a little bit too caught up in some of the minutia. Just have a great time, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And people are there all there for different reasons. People are on the dance floor for different reasons, and you don't know what their reason is.
Well, and we don't know, like you said, what their reason, in a sense that some people, it means a lot to all of us, but we have our own reasons for being in this. And some people can be very ambitious. And I don't want to say that they're willing to tear down others to try to get themselves to the top, but it becomes very apparent when there's a little bit of that desperation there. And really, the best way to shine is just to continue to promote everybody. And you're not going to get ahead by putting other people down. Like, it's just, everybody sees through it. So
yep. And that's why I love to go. That's the way I love to go to all the events with you and other people, that you just show up, everybody's smiling, everybody's having a great time, everybody's loving the dancing. Just that positive vibe. There's nothing better than it in the world, for sure. Tell us a little bit about what's your schedule. How many days are you teaching? How many events are you going to? Kind of what's your cadence for your line dance part of your life?
Sure. It's kind of changed over the years, as a lot of listeners might not even know, but I have two little kids. Right now they're 10 and 7, but when I started this, they were literally in my tummy. Like, they have grown up with this being in my life. And as I've kind of hinted, I started line dancing in Northern Michigan. We moved to West Texas. We moved to California for 8 months. We moved back to Houston. So it's really evolved. Currently, right now, I love being able to be available during the daytime as much as possible, because my kids are at school. So, I mean, let's get real. That's when I'm the most flexible and I can focus on things that I like to do. So I have 2 daytime classes that I do weekly, and those are an hour and a half long each. And those are focused, we call it beginner plus, because we'll focus an hour on beginner stuff. It's held at a public church. So basically anybody can come in, and you always get those newbies. But then there's 30 minutes of time that we spend doing improver dances, and I'll take requests. And so that's really fun to see the growth from never dancing before to getting them up to that improver level. Then to kind of carry through that, I have once a week where I do Tuesday night classes, and that's a 2-hour long class where the first hour is the beginner / improver. So it's seeing that growth, and I'm trying to encourage those daytime students to start coming in the evening, because then the second hour is when we do the intermediate dancing. And so they're getting to get a taste of that next level up. And my goal is not necessarily to get them past intermediate. I feel like once you're at the intermediate level, you can do pretty much anything. You can get to those advanced dances if you really want to. But my goal is not the memorizing of each dance. It's growing the dancer's ability. So it's not, oh, we're going to do a beginner dance only in a beginner class. These are beginner dancers, right? And then, so in the intermediate class, we might do an improver dance, but teach it in 5 minutes, versus a beginner class doing that same improver dance might take them 30 minutes, so that's my regular schedule: 2 daytimes on Monday, Thursday, and a nighttime on a Tuesday. And then once a month now, I'm doing a bowling alley called Pinstripes. It's a chain, and they also have line dancing at other locations around the country. But that's a 3-hour long event once a month that we just come, and I teach 2 easy dances. I call them easy because I hate the word beginner. I'm just going to say it right now. Not everybody is a beginner just because you want to do the easy dances. So we'll teach 2 easy dances, and then the rest of the time is open requests. So you could even request an advanced dance during that time if you're going to get out there and do it, right? So 3 hours, it's fun, and we can theme it. And that's been a regular thing now for over 6 months. And then I take a lot of corporate and private things that just fill in those extra evenings and daytimes. I used to do a lot of 55 plus communities, and I've backed off from that a little because it was a lot of driving. They're always in the outskirts, and Houston is like the equivalent of 5 cities put together. Event wise, Heart of Texas is a staple of mine. Las Vegas Dance Explosion has been a staple of mine since 2018, and I took a year off from it this year. So this was the first year since 2018 that I did not attend it, and that broke my heart. But those 2 events are huge for me. One is like a hometown event, and then Vegas being the big deal, and a lot of people like to go. And so a bunch of our Texas dancers like to go to that one. Then we have smaller Texas events. The Texas Jamboree hosts 400 dancers, though. That is a staple for me to attend annually, and I'm one of the instructors that helps lead walkthroughs there. The Yellow Rose is been going since 2020. That's a staple. I'm there every year. I used to be an organizer for that event, but that went through some transitions, and I had to take a step back from being on the forefront of that one. But it's an amazing event. We just had that last weekend. The Texas Bluebonnet Bash focuses on beginners, and that's here in Houston. That's a great event. Mineola kick-in, the 4 States Line Dance Festival up in Texarkana, Dancing for the Dream in Lubbock. I mean, I try to hit mostly a bunch of the Texas ones.
Well, it's good to hear that you have a nice light schedule. Just a few. But yeah, it's I just see you so active in the dance community nationwide, but especially in Texas. It's fantastic. Tell us a little bit of kind of your teaching and techniques. Do you have a certain philosophy when you're teaching line dance, and how do you handle kind of the different skill levels that you're teaching across the different groups?
I have taken, like I said, with the choreography, nuggets from some of the top names around the world. As an instructor comes in, if I haven't taken a class from them at an event, they're the top of my list. I don't care what they're teaching, what dance it is. I want to go see how they teach, and I incorporate that into my lessons. One big thing, if I could get on a soapbox, would be, and this goes for big events and local classes, I think as an instructor, you'll do your students so much justice and help them out so much if you play a bit of the music before you teach it, right? Like, don't say, oh, we're going to do Cold Heart. Now let's start right foot back. No, let them hear a clip of the music. And even if you have time, I took this from one of our other Texas instructors, Elsa Campbell. She was my instructor for a year and a half as well. she'll demo one wall of the dance with the music, just one wall, kind of like we do at our events prior to just going through the lesson, especially with beginners, because it allows them the chance to see the steps in action before learning it. And you're training them, just subtly training them to pick up dances on the floor when they go out. Because, oh, I'm hearing the music, I'm going to watch one wall. Could I theoretically try to jump in and fake it till I make it, right?
Yep.
And just
Yeah,
that
I
little
always encourage
preview.
people to do a demo with the music because then people know what they're getting into, right? They know,
Yeah, and
oh,
you'd be
okay.
surprised. I've been to lots of big events, and I would never point out names or anything, but there are instructors that they're like, okay, you're here for this class, let's get started. And they'll just start with the steps. And I go, whoa, I've already learned 4 other dances today. I have no clue what I'm about to do. I don't know. I can't remember. Was this a nightclub one? Was this the waltz? Was this, you start to lose track when you've learned so many dances, and it can get overwhelming. So that is like the biggest advantage, is just prior to going through the steps, just play a little bit of music. And if you can, do the steps one time. And it
That's a
makes the
great
teaching
way.
go so much faster. Because believe me, if they kind of know what's coming, it's like, oh, okay, I can wrap my head around what we're about to do, basically,
Absolutely.
instead of going in blind. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. But I love counts. I love steps. I mean, the cueing, getting used to doing that ahead of the steps is not only great for instructors, but the students. You got to think of the next 8 count while you're executing the current one. So we always kind of harp on that a little bit. But yeah, I could go on and on. I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely have it down. I mean, I've seen you teach in a lot of places, and it's really that the process is great for the students. I think they really appreciate it.
sure.
Tell us a little bit about any memorable moments in your kind of line dance career, any achievements or anything that stand out in your mind.
So maybe it's just my personality. I feel like the things that tend to stand out, this sounds terrible, but this is just me as a person. And I guess that's what this is about, getting to know the inner workings. But I feel like the failures stand out more than the achievements do sometimes. I wish that I was not wired that way. But I did not make my high school drill team the first time I tried out, but it was the resiliency to go back and try again. I did not place in Vegas Dance Explosion. I ended up on staff there, soon after that. It's just having resiliency. I competed at UCWDC Worlds. And this is me feeling very confident in my choreography background. I didn't place. I'm not a quitter. I'm never going to quit. One success, I got to at least say like the successes, right? I remember I was at Vegas Dance Explosion and I got the email from Palm Springs. Winter break, Bracken Heiderich had revamped that event and had done a virtual choreography competition. And I can't tell you, as a mom whose travel time, not just budget, but time is limited, to have those choreography competitions available to people pre-event online is a game changer, because you feel like, oh, I won. Now I can go to the event and be proud and be a member of the staff that year. And so she had emailed me and she said, Britt, you didn't just win the beginner dance category, you also won the intermediate advanced category. And I thought, no way. Are you kidding me? And so the prize was to get to go to Palm Springs and to teach at whatever level day, because it's broken down into separate days, the beginner and the intermediate advanced. So I got to teach both days and feel like I was a headlining member of the staff, because I wasn't just one of the choreography winners. I wiped the whole slate. I did the whole thing. So that was truly just a kudo to myself. I felt like really I've made it when I was in Rob Fowler's choreography class, and we were not just doing projects on our own, but we were also working with other people in the class to do collaborations too. He always had notes for students. Every dance, he'd put it out there, and we would almost have a running joke, between us. How many edits am I going to have to do? Sometimes it would get up to like 7 or 8 times. You'd have to redo the dance and resubmit it. And me and my partner, Leslie Kidd, we wrote a dance to Rock the Casbah, and we submitted it, and we were thinking to ourselves, this is pretty solid. I wonder how many edits. Maybe we'll have 1 or 2. It was the first dance of the class that he said, no edits. This is perfect the way it is. So that kind of gave me the juice in the early moments of my choreography to really feel proud, like I know what I'm doing. I've got this, So those little moments, even though they might not be huge marquees, I don't have a trophy, to display for some of those little moments. They're the things that, really just build up your confidence and give you that moment to just push ahead and make you feel like you're doing all the right things. So,
well, I love how you are so active and you go glean all this information from all of these great dancers and instructors. And it just goes to prove, this should really show people, grit is the most important thing, the hard work and the learning and then getting back up every time.
Yes.
And the value and the the beauty of that is, you're handed something and say, yeah, you did a great job. This is no edits. You don't need us. You've accomplished all of these things to achieve that. That's great.
Yeah. And that's such a validating feeling. We always want that approval. But at the end of the day, the biggest critic I have is myself. And all of my dances, trust me, have been through my own critique and through the ringer. I have worked them almost too much sometimes, but I want it to be just perfect before it's out there. So, I mean, I don't know if every choreographer could say this. I'm sure that they would if they could, but I feel like I could look through my body of work and look at every dance and every video that I've made to go with that dance, because I want to tell that story with those videos. I'm so proud of what I've been able to do and how much growth I've had over the years. And it's nice to have somebody else tell you you did a good job, but just feeling confident in yourself that like, I love what I'm doing and I love these projects that I've done. I mean, that's all you need. So anyone out there in that mode, like do your thing and be proud of yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a little bit like you always talk about community and culture. Like, how do you see the line dance community evolving right now and kind of into the future?
Well, especially I want to definitely, as I am an advocate and ambassador of Texas, I feel like we have seen tremendous changes just since I've been involved in line dancing. And that's the past 10 years. Texas, there are dance halls. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's not really a joke, but they'll have a sign up that says line dancing not welcome, And even when I just appeared on Fox News, line dancing as a representative of the state of Texas, if you read through those comments, there was a gentleman, and I screenshot it and saved it because I want that to fuel me to see those things from a fellow Texan saying, FYI, line dancing is not Texan. It just kills me to see that kind of stuff. But I really do feel like the change that I've seen in the past decade has been so positive. And not to put down Texans, I feel like the line dancers are here. It's not that there's not a desire to do it. There's just such a like public shaming of it in a sense that it just pushes us into our like little classes and rec centers and things where we're kind of hidden away. And I've seen that evolve and change to where now more and more places are seeking out. My email is blowing up multiple times a week from different venues saying, we need a line dance instructor to come to our dance hall and teach weekly classes. It's like, I can't deliver that myself. I just can't fulfill every ask. So I see myself as a connection, a community connector, to be able to bring in other instructors. I divvy out the assignments, like, hey, you want a job? Here you go. Hey, you want a class? Here you go, and just trying to continue to grow it. And so we've seen massive changes. And a big part of that is, just putting it out there, sharing videos, bring your friends, make this seem like it's a fun activity. But it's also getting the instructors working together. Texas is a big state, and a big problem we had probably 10 years ago is everybody was in their own little bubble. I'm going to teach these dances to my class, right? And I'm going to teach these dances to my class. But then when you have a student go from class A to class B on vacation, or they're just in town, they know a different dance to that same song, and we're just like in the same state and not staying consistent with each other. So with that Facebook group and with our instructors communicating and putting dances in our monthly poll, we are sharing, and we're able to be more of a big community, and it helps connect the dancers, because nothing's more frustrating than loving line dancing. Maybe you're a new dancer and you think, I love this, I love that dance, I love that song, and you'll go out and dance somewhere, and then they're doing a different dance to the same song, and it immediately like defeats you, and you go, okay, I guess I'll just go to the bathroom now.
Yeah, I've run out because I travel all over. I run out to the dance floor, so excited to dance, and then oh no, totally different song, totally different
Which
dance.
naturally that'll happen if you go different places around the world. But we were getting that in Texas, even in the same city, and so I feel like we have seen just massive improvements on that end of it too. We're talking more, we're working together more, and we're paying attention to what's being done elsewhere in the world, as well as trying to promote our own growth from within. At the Yellow Rose this weekend, there was a whole new batch of Texas choreographers that all entered and made up dances. And it was amazing just to see all of this new, fresh ideas and material. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what advice do you have for somebody that's just starting out in line dancing, some of your newbies?
My newbies, I'm like a broken record. My regulars get tired of me saying the same things, but I say it's like learning a new language. And I teach all ages, from kids up to seniors. And I got to tell you, kids, they don't care what they look like. They think they look awesome, and they cannot have a single step right, and they think that they nailed the dance. Adults, we're so critical of ourselves, and if we're not perfect, then we failed. And I hate seeing that attitude, because it turns people away. So you got to give yourself grace. You got to be okay with making mistakes. You got to be okay with, oh, I got half of the dance, that's fine. If you are walking into a German class for the first time, you're not going to be fluent on the first day. You've got to give yourself room to make mistakes and have those errors, and it is okay. And we're all going to cheer you on, and because we want you to come back. So that's the biggest issue I see with adults and being a newbie student, is just being too hard on yourself. So stick with it. Go to more than one class. Go to more than one instructor. If it's not clicking with you at one place, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt if you go and take classes at Neon Boots and you're like, man, the way this instructor teaches is so much better than Britt. I'm just glad you're dancing.
Oh, that's great. And once they get over that first hurdle, any advice you have for people to start improving their skill levels in line dancing?
Basically, just stick with it. I mean, you just got to not quit on yourself. I mentioned it earlier. It's not about memorizing every dance. I'll pull up Copper Knob and I say, you see this number in the corner? There's like 110,000 line dances published. Do you think you're going to memorize and learn all of those? It's like, heck no, you're not. You're going to have your favorites, and you're going to spend extra time on your favorites. You're also going to be exposed to lots of different things that you didn't even know you were going to like. You might have even been repulsed by that song the first time you heard it, and then you connected the steps to it, and all of a sudden it just clicked, and it worked for you. Don't memorize the dances. Improve yourself as a dancer. And I want my students to grow and be able to pick up any dance they go, anywhere they go. So it's just about growing the dancer and not about checking a bunch of dances off of your list that you don't know. It is a shot in the dark saying, I know these 100 dances, and to go somewhere and think that they're going to play one of them, what are the odds? So don't just stick with like a set list. You got to just be flexible and know your terminology, know how to recognize those steps on the fly from just seeing those moves in the wild, and just don't be afraid to jump in. So that's how you grow. That's how you get better and become an instructor.
That's right.
Nothing makes you better than having to call out the steps for other people.
You learn a lot more trying to teach people, for sure. So once they get beyond that and they want to go to an event, if it's their first big event that they're going to, what advice do you have for them to do that?
So the biggest thing is stamina, mental and physical, right? If you're going to go to an event, be open-minded. It is a buffet. It is not a meal, like a 7-course meal that you got to take in and digest it all. You're going to sample. You're going to you might go to 7 classes in a day, but you don't need to, retain and soak in and hold on to every little bit of knowledge. Taste each little style, taste each choreographer, taste the dances. And then after the event is over, say, that dance really stood out to me. I'm going to spend extra time on that 1 or 2 dances. I think sometimes dancers will go to an event and they're enjoying it so much, but they try to do too much, right? You've got to have fun. You've got to just take it all in. You've got to pace yourself. And that's physically as well. You cannot be on your feet for 4 straight days, 24 hours a day, right? You just can't. Bring different pairs of shoes, change your footwear. That's the biggest refresh that your feet can have, right? Take your naps, take your lunch breaks, get some sleep. Your mind and your body is not going to be able to keep up. But the event directors want to offer as much as possible. So there's going to be offerings. You can't do it all. So go have a good time, and then know that this is the first of many events that you're going to go to. And there should be a disclaimer, because the disclaimer is this is addictive, right?
Yeah, you come back and you're like, okay, I learned the 4 dances this morning. I don't remember any of them, because you just, at that point, you just get so exhausted.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I usually pick out 2 a day, and that's like my max. I'm like, I want to really get those 2, and all the rest is just for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so now a real fun part of the podcast. We're going to start our rapid fire questions.
Woo-woo, kind of.
Question number 1, cowboy boots or fuegos?
Neither.
Neither. Okay, what's your favorite dance shoe then?
Okay, my secret is Kohl's. I know that that's terrible, but they look just like real expensive dance boots, but you can get really cheap, like winter flat suede looking boots from your local department store, Target, Kohl's, Walmart. They will hold up better outside. You will not cry when they break apart and they fall apart because you danced too much in them, because they only cost you $40. And you can own like 6 pairs and just change out the colors. It's so great. And I don't know why more people don't do it, but yeah, cheap Kohl's boots.
Very good. And what do you do at the bottoms? Do you put something on them?
You don't have to do anything.
They
are all of my Kohl's boots. I think they're made by SO or So. I don't know how you would pronounce that company, but they have a very thin rubber sole, and it's so thin that it wears very quickly. And I turn so well in them, and I can walk outside because they're not, material on the bottom. So they are just the best kept secret. I don't have to do anything to them.
There you go. Yeah, that's a new secret that I have not heard. That's good. All right, coffee, Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Neither.
You're gonna give us a new one for everyone.
I don't drink coffee.
What's your favorite drink?
I'm a Texas girl, Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. All right. So I have a couple of hard rapid fire ones. So who are your top 3 favorite people in the industry? Who do you think brings the most fun to line dancing that you've seen out there in the industry? Top 3.
I have an answer, but I also have notes. So I want to see if I'm thinking of the same. Okay. And you said fun because
Yes.
I know on the notes, because, I idolize Joe and Roy and John Robinson and stuff. I got to tell you, I had a blast this weekend at the Yellow Rose with Jill Babinek, and any event that Jill is there and she's dancing on the floor, the funnest.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I mean,
well, actually, I saw her and John
wild.
Robinson were next to each other at an
Yes.
event, and I was like, this is insanity. It's so got so crazy.
It's wild. It is just almost too much. So I don't think Jill gets the kudos that she deserves a lot of times.
I think she's been getting more though. I think people
was nominated.
Now more people know her.
She was nominated for Crystal Boot as a DJ, and I love seeing her DJ because she's got great taste. I mean, she's a line dancer and she's on the floor with everybody else too. But
she can teach about everything. She's great. Yeah.
She is just so fun. I mean, I have to say John Robinson too. What I love about him is he's not just bringing fun on the dance floor. He's hauling all of his jewelry and swag and stuff. He's custom making. He's there for the dancers. I feel like if he's at an event, he's seen and he's on the floor and he is throwing those variations in there, making everybody laugh. So I love that.
Yeah, he's great. I had him on the podcast, and I reserved my 7th, my 00, my 007 podcast for John Robinson. I'm like, you are going to be the James Bond interview for the Bring the Fun podcast because you are the absolute most fun person I've ever met in the industry. He's phenomenal.
So great. Do I have to say a third?
Yep. Give me a third.
I have to say a third. Okay, so I'm going to throw out Brandon Zahorsky's name because although I haven't been to as many events with him, I am just floored by what he's able to do, like emceeing and, as a choreographer and just bringing his energy to his old classes. I know he just moved to Florida. But just seeing what he does on the dance floor, just in local classes, bringing people in to the bar. I mean, you're talking hundreds of people just on a regular weeknight. I'm just floored and amazed at that kind of energy and that kind of ability to just bring people in. So
when he moved down to Florida, I thought he was kind of like stepping back in a little bit. And then him and Trevor started putting out some joint things and they were blowing up.
I know.
So great. So
I mean, and Shivers did such a good job in spanning popularity across the globe. I mean, come on. Ridiculous.
For sure. Okay, now to dances. What are your all-time favorite 3 dances?
This was a very, very hard one, and I'm not going to lock in these. This is just me
top out of your top 100 that are floating around in your head that would be your favorites.
Yeah, I've got to go back to my earlier days of line dance. One of the earlier hard dances that I learned was Islands in the Stream. And I just feel like that dance, it's just a classic. It spans the test of time. It is not easy to get. So it's, it feels good to do it. And I feel like it matches up with the vibe of the song. So just as a classic shout out, I've got to bring that back. I just got requested to teach that this week. And I'm like, yes, thank you.
Nice.
Thanks for asking for that. And then one of the earliest hard ones that I learned was Vanatech Chaw. And every time it gets played, I feel like just nostalgia builds up in me and I have to go out on the dance floor and dance it. And it is there in my feet, whether I haven't done it in 5 minutes or I haven't done it in 5 months. Or longer. I could go a year without doing that dance and it's still there. And that's when the choreography just stuck with you and it's so fun. And I could do that dance at every event, I think, and it would make me smile so much. But it's connection to those memories of that was a big deal for me to pick that up when I did, and I hate doing personal shout outs, but I'm going to say I just really love the dance Tijuana that I wrote because it connects me with my kids, and we made a music video for it. And it was after I did Rob Fowler's class and wrote that dance. That was like a breakout dance for me where I didn't have Rob's input. So that was me on my own again.
Without training wheels.
Without training wheels. And that dance got picked up and taught by Darren Bailey and Willie Brown and people that I thought would never even know who I was. So that dance means a lot to me. And I feel like lyrically, it just has so many little Easter eggs in it that I'll just leave it at that. There might be a cross the line in there. So
cool. Very cool. Well, we'll put together a challenge list in the Bring the Fun app, and we can share that, your top 3 favorite dances,
cool.
so everybody can see them. Okay, so what's your favorite most recent dance that's come out?
Recent is relative. I mean, I've been teaching Take Me to the Beach a lot lately, and that one took a minute for it to really click, but once it did, it was like, this is really cool and it feels very different, and I love brushing the sand off my hands. But like more recent, I mean, not more recent than that, but one of my favorites that just the music gets me is Our Own Party, where Joe and who was it? Roy Hadisabrodo, and there was a third choreographer on that. It was one of those Windy City challenge dances that just like gets me so excited, like the goosebumps on my arm. So I love Our Own Party. And although that's not like from this year, it's still recent-ish. So
excellent. All right. So this is a fun question. You've been around and met a lot of people, but who out there is your number one kind of line dance? I call it celebrity crush. They said don't use that word, but who's your like line dance idol? Somebody that you have not met yet. Who would you want to meet out there in the industry that you haven't met?
This is what was tough. Somebody I haven't met, because I'm thinking like I have met a lot of people, but I haven't actually ever in person met Gary O'Reilly. And there's so many dances of his that I just really love. Vanatech Chaw, for instance. And I've met his counterpart, Maggie Gallagher, several times and gotten to be on staff with her. But I'm waiting for that moment I get to meet Mr. Gary O. So
yeah, I got to see him last year. He so much fun, just incredibly fun.
Yeah.
Personal stories. What's been the most rewarding thing in your experience in the line dance industry?
I mean, I don't want to throw out words like karma or like, something's meant to be, but recently getting to go to New York City and be asked to be on national TV for line dance has to top my list right now, because that just happened. But it just seemed, and the best New York word I could come up for was serendipitous, because it just, the odds of that happening, you don't even know. I was packing my bags on Thursday night and I get an email saying, hey, it's Fox News in New York City. We would love for you to come and be on the show on Tuesday to teach line dancing and represent Texas. And I'm looking at this email as I'm about to go to New York City for spring break with my family going, who's pulling my leg? I half expected to get, excited and go show up at like an empty studio on Tuesday morning and somebody like trolled me, right? And like pulled a gotcha. So I had to reread that email about 100 times. And then to find out, actually, they reached out to a ton of Texas instructors. There's a website, the Texas Line Dance Jamboree, that 30th anniversary event I talked about earlier, where there's a bunch of instructors listed on the instructor page. And I think they emailed everybody on that page. I was the only one willing and available because I was already going to New York City to do that. But amongst my Texas community, they were like, oh my God, they chose the best person. Everybody told me they picked you, didn't they? And I'm like, no, I just was the only one.
Honestly, that's what I thought. I mean, you are the quintessential Texas line dance representative in my mind.
I'm so honored.
And you wore the Texas flag shirt. I mean, you just
I
I
think,
mean,
thank
it was
goodness
perfect. It
they
was so perfect.
contacted me the day before I left, because I would have never, I had sweats packed and things. I was going to go hike around New York City and climb the Statue of Liberty. I had nowhere on my radar that I was going to go do a line dance thing. And then to get there, and they were like, who else will come with you? I'm like, no one else is going to come with me.
So
Nobody.
did you know Fleeta and Tara were going to be there?
I reached out to them
Oh, you reached out
because
to them and said, come.
on Monday before our Tuesday show, the producers and I were talking, and they said, we've got some budget. Can we fly some people out? And I was like, actually, I think I could get more people to come out because, hello, it was spring break week. You were telling people like 4 days before. The flights were insane. The hotels were insane. Nobody was going to, even if they had the time, take the money to go appear for 5 minutes on TV. So I reached out, and it worked out perfect because here we had Fleeta representing the Dallas Fort Worth area, and Tara, who teaches in the Central Texas Austin area. And I felt like, yes, now we are truly representing Texas. We've got three just, I think great instructors from three major metropolitan areas in our state, to where our local dancers could go, I know that person, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was so perfect. When that hit the wires, I was just like, this is insane. It's so cool. And you guys all had great posts and videos, and they were posting that Fox was posting all this other videos.
and
And
more is coming
yeah,
because I got to tell you, I hit the ground and I crashed after I came home from all of our escapades. But I have footage and things from like behind the scenes that I want to post. But yeah, and then we were able to teach one dance. So imagine, like your podcast, you going, what's one dance, right? That you could do. And you're going, it's got to be easy enough that people could pick it up, the anchors could pick it up, and that people at home could identify with it, right? And recognize it. And I thought, we're representing Texas. We've got to choose a Joe Thompson dance. We have to. So Cut a Rug was just a standout because we still do that regularly in Texas. I don't know how many other places do that, but it is a staple for us here. And we love doing that dance contra too. And we don't just use Scooter Lee's track, we use a bunch of different tracks. But we knew that using that dance, our Texas dancers would go, oh my God, it's Cut a Rug, right?
yep,
And we knew that Joe would be pretty proud about it too. So
that is great. That is great. Super proud of you for doing that, and
uh,
great, like you say, serendipitous and carbon video. That was perfect.
yeah.
So, any funny or unexpected stories in your line dance career?
Well, I can talk about one that happened there on the show because that's recent and that kind of stood out. It was funny because filming a live thing like that, they tell you going into it, you're going to have 3 to 5 minutes. And you're going, okay, cool. I've taught many dances over many, different lengths of time. So you're thinking an easy dance, 3 to 5 minutes, no problem. And then you show, I think it was the day before, they're like, you're going to go on at 8:50, and you're going, the show ends at 9. Okay, cool. And so then you're there and you're doing teasers. We got to do a few other little dance snippets throughout the show. And then all of a sudden it's 8:50, 8:51, 8:52, and you're hurt. You're a little excited, but a little stressed because you're thinking, are they going to do this, or are we totally going to get cut out of this? Because it's live. There is no taping and like squeezing it in later. Like there's no edit, that you're either on the show or you're not. So that part of it was kind of funny because we're standing there. It was freezing outside too.
Yeah, it looked very cold.
We tried not to make it look like we were shivering or anything, but you're out there in the cold and you're waiting and the nerves are going and you're going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Are we going to go on? Are they going to cut us? Oh my God, Tara, are they going to cut? Where are we going to start? And the funniest thing about the whole, as a line dancer, and as somebody who does professional videos or has any sense of it, you would say logically, I'm going to play the music and let these dancers just dance, and we'll just pan the camera over to them, right? On all those little clips. They never did that. we were standing there and expecting them to say action or something. All of a sudden the cameras were just on and there was no music, and the music would just cut in while we were in the middle of dancing. So we're like counting the numbers for a bar song just cold. And then the music kind of like comes in after, and we're like, oh my God, are we on the right foot? But never that moment where they were like, action, or oh, let's play the music so that they can dance. We were just kind of awkwardly thinking, okay, let's just start dancing and see where the music kind of joins in. And it was so fast, and we didn't know how good it looked or not. Then there's the moment on the bull. Tara volunteers. I'll get on the bull, and she's wearing a dress. So she gets up there, and the producers call down.
Never happened in a bar before, in a dress on a bull.
Well, they radio down, and they tell the staff down there she can't be on it because she's in a dress and it's live, right? Who knows if she fell off,
Yep.
what we're gonna see or whatever. And so then I say, I'll get on it, because I'm seeing Tara up there and she's riding the bull and it's moving. So then I get up there. They never call action, and the bull's not moving. And Tara and Fleeta are there dancing right in front of me. And I'm sitting there going, the bull's not moving. So then I just start doing this, and I'm just moving on my own, going like, oh my gosh, is this looking good? Does it look like the bull? And so just very wild. And we were able to kind of laugh about it in between the shots and stuff. But we're thinking like, oh my gosh, I hope this is coming together. But it was wild. They never said action. They were not playing music for us. We were just kind of dancing and hoping that we could make it look good. And that dang bull, I wanted it to buck me off, and it didn't move an inch. I had to just really like work it. And yeah, so kind of funny, kind of crazy. So many funny moments that I've shared, laughs and jokes, and maybe things that didn't go right in shows over different events. But that New York trip, I'm just
nothing like live TV.
I know, live TV experience. That's yeah, you either make it work or not, and everybody gets to see. So
that's awesome. That's incredible. As you know, like I'm big into dreaming big, going for it, just doing the impossible. What in your mind, what's your 10x dream? Where do you want kind of everything to go with line dancing for you?
Well, in my wildest dreams, I'm really big on the generation today. They say manifesting, right? And so that's all about like you're dreaming something almost into reality. And so I don't want to say that that's always happened for me, because sometimes life takes you down a different path than you originally planned. And sometimes it works out, but at the end of the day, you look back and you say, oh, everything happens for a reason. But in my wildest dreams, I want to travel all over the world and go to every line dance event out there. The pinnacle moment is going to be that moment that I can get nominated, not even win, but nominated for a crystal boot and go to Blackpool, England, and actually be a part of that event. I almost refuse to try to go until that happens. Like, I don't even want to go to that event unless I get a nomination. And then like my life will be complete. But for the line dance community as a whole, I want line dance to be like, get the credit it's due. I feel like, at least my experience in Texas, it's almost like this hidden network of people. We know how special our people are. We know how amazing it is of what we do, but it's almost like the world doesn't see it. I feel like, yeah, oh, that's fun. Look, those people are line dancing there. But I feel like our line dance celebrities deserve to be on par with like the top Taylor Swifts of the world. And I feel like what we do is so fun and so great, and it's for everybody, all ages, all abilities, all music styles. I just want to see it grow and be as big as I know it can be. And
well, you're doing your part for sure. Millions and millions of people saw you. in New York doing line dancing for Texas. So
Yeah, every little bit helps for sure. So
excellent. So tell us a little bit about kind of outside of line dancing. We know you have your family. What other things do you like to do, or what do you do outside of line dancing?
oh my gosh, I am a jack of all trades. I have such a long list. Fantasy football, fishing, Lego. I started writing down things and then I love Disney. I went to college and I graduated with a degree in biomedical science and I was a med tech for 5 years. I just have done so many dabbles and so many things, and I have so many passions that I don't know how I keep up with myself sometimes. But truly, truly, it's about people and it's about living life and that community. And I think that spirit comes through in line dancing, but I cherish that in everything in my life. If my husband likes football, I'm going to watch football and we're going to enjoy it together. If my son is into Lego, I never touched a Lego before he got into it and came along. But by God, that is like a central part of our life. And we go to Lego conventions and compete. It's just whatever it is in life, I'm going to embrace it and do it. So,
That's
yeah.
great. That's great. Well, I know you've done competitions for choreography. Have you done any line dance or other just actual dance competitions I know you did it when you were younger, right?
Yes.
So tell us kind of like your competition, background.
So,
have you done anything recently?
not dance wise. I feel I'm the type of person I can get really emotional and I can really be my own. I mentioned it, my own worst critic sometimes, and I can be really hard on myself. And I think I talk like I'm an old person, but in my age, I really am past the point of feeling like I want to be judged. And I have thought about, putting myself out on the dance floor and feeling like, oh, let me get these marks or let me shoot for this trophy. But at the end of the day, my real joy and connection to what we do has to do with just my love of dancing to the music, and any type of competition I've ever attempted to do has made me feel so stressed and so anxious and so negative towards myself that it really just taints you know, the whole love of dance. And so I really don't have a desire to do a whole lot of competing. The exception would be, and I haven't had the joy to be able to compete with them, but I have performed with them, and that's Maddie's Dancing Dragons. So Maddie B up in the Seattle, Portland area, she started Dancing Dragons so it could be an adult social competition team and bringing in people from anywhere. It's such an open and welcome group. And so I really love that aspect of it. It is about trying to win. I mean, everybody wants to win, but it's the spirit of just doing something together and improving your craft and enjoying the moment and performing a number. That's what I like. I love being in like the Saturday shows at events and being able to be in a performance aspect, but I don't love the judging or the competition part of it. I have had to be a judge and judge choreography competitions, and although I am willing to step in those shoes and do that job and give my opinion on something, it is not something that brings me a ton of joy because I see what it does to the competitors and how hard they can be on themselves. And it just brings up these emotions that I don't love. And so I don't gravitate towards the competitive side of line dancing at all. And if I did, it would be in a team aspect where I would get to do it with friends. And it would be more of like a life experience together, more so than me trying to reach and achieve. And I know some people love that. And it's just, I'm beyond the point of desiring that aspect of it. So.
All right. As long as it's fun and you're with a team, then you're
all about the fun, Todd.
That's great. I've done the competitions as well. Yeah, I think it does. You have to have the mentality to handle the stress
Yeah.
of it. But people that are starting to do competitions, and there's all different types, choreography and actual line dance and couples dance, everything. Any advice for people that are starting to get into competitions from your experience? What would you say the most important things for them to do are?
I'm probably the worst person to give advice about this because I'm just going to tell people get out there and have a good time. I mean, at the end of the day, like that's what it's all about. I do think the best tool you can use if you're going to perform in any aspect, whether it's a competition or whether you're putting on a show, is film yourself. I've got to say, through all of my videos and tutorials that I've done, when you watch yourself, you would be amazed at the things that you see that you think you're doing right, or things that you think you're doing wrong and you go, hey, actually that doesn't look too bad. And so you can see those things in posture and the micro details that maybe you need to improve or fix. But use those tools that you have at your disposal. Film yourself, be your own judge, but also there's a lot of resources out there. And I know that sometimes people can be shy and not utilize some of the talent we have. I hear Megan Barcelia talk about this a lot. When she'll go to an event, she'll seek out private lessons from the choreographers and the instructors that are there in those moments that she wouldn't normally get to cross paths with, and get their expert opinions on how should I do this move, or watch me dance and tell me the little techniques and things I can do to improve, if you want to go into competition. So that just kind of can help you just develop your skills and improve without, making it a negative thing. You don't want to save all of your judgment for the competition floor. Take it in little pieces. Take those little growth moments and use those tools to help you improve, and be your own judge.
Very good. So future plans, what's next for you this year? Anything that you have got in the hopper?
Well, it's kind of an unusual year for me, I'd say. Last year, I was doing all my usual events. I say last year because it's almost like last cycle for me. I did Vegas, I did Heart of Texas, and then I did a brand new event, Branson Celebration, it turned out to be a one and done. That was supposed to continue, and Joy Kennedy, the organizer, took a step back. But Branson was my last event that I was on staff, and I went into that event knowingly that from last summer all the way through this coming summer, I was not taking staff assignments. It's allowed me a chance to kind of refocus and take a breath and prioritize what I think works best for me, and kind of look ahead to the future, what I've got, what I want to do. And I just think for the time of life I'm in, I'm just trying to focus more on the local type things. And the more I say that, these types of things like New York just fall in my lap. So I feel like there's a plan out there, and you just kind of go with it. I don't have anything major lined up. I'm going to go to Heart of Texas next month. And rather than being on staff, I'm being supportive, past staff member to help out. I've told several of the choreographers, if you need somebody to back you up in a show or bounce ideas off of for your show routine, or you need a back wall instructor in your class, I'm totally there. But I don't have anything lined up. I'm going to focus on things here at home. I've got my sights set on the Line Star State Awards in a couple years, where I'm going to try to build that up. And my daughter and my son are starting to line dance and go with me as assistants to some of my gigs. And so it's kind of fun. They're starting to write dances too. So I'm just really in this mode that I'm enjoying the family time and trying to get them kind of interested in it also. So
fantastic. So what's the easiest way for listeners to get a hold of you, to support you, to pump you up?
Oh, yes. I'm going to say that one big thing. There's a Greek cruise, not this summer, but the next summer, and I'm turning 40. So anybody who wants to come and celebrate my 40th birthday, I'm going on the Line Dance Greek cruise with Joe Babinek, Tina Foster's organizing it. I'm not on staff or anything. This is a vacation for me and my husband, but I'm looking forward to line dancing overseas for the first time because I've never actually line danced out of the US. So big deal for me. But anyway,
Great.
Best way to contact me is probably through email. I try to make everything very easy to find, even if you were to Google search Line Dancing Houston, all one word, no caps. Make sure you put the ing on line dancing, linedancinghouston@gmail.com. The same thing goes for my website, linedancinghouston.com. Or you can find me on Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. I've got my personal page under Britt Beresik. I've got my class page under Cross the Line Dancing Houston. And then I'm very big on pumping up and monitoring our Texas Online Dance Mission group. So I've got those three trifectas covered. And I'm not big on Instagram. I do have a TikTok. My Instagram has shifted to Lego for my son. But I technically have an account. So anyway, yeah, best way though is email. I'm always checking that and pretty responsive. So.
And all the Texans that want to keep up on the Line Star State, that's a month. You're still going to do that monthly.
Yes, that is all housed within that Texas Online Dance Mission group.
Right.
We do that because even though we welcome all dancers that have anything to do with Texas, even if you come just take one event here a year, it is a private group. So everybody that gets a membership in there, I do have screening questions because last thing we want is a bot or a spam account or somebody's grandma's second cousin's uncle that's going to just vote and give their relative extra votes for their dance, but they really don't dance. So yeah, we do screen members of that group just to make sure that we've got legitimate accounts and people connected with Texas in that group. But the Line Star State Awards are all through that group.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
No, my pleasure. I'm so glad to do this. Thank you.
And just to remind everybody, subscribe and like our YouTube channel, Todd the Data Cowboy. All of our podcasts will be on there. We'll continue to do them several every month. And email me at imin@bringthefun.dance if you know of anybody that you think should be the person that gets interviewed on this podcast this year. You can also check all the social media, Todd the Data Cowboy or Bring the Fun Dance for the Line Dance app. And you can see all the venues, all the events, all the dances that are being done all over the world. So thank you very much, Britt. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I don't know when I'm going to see you next, but it's normally Vegas for us. Maybe I'll get back out there this year.
Yeah, Vegas Dance Explosion is usually my favorite because we have a whole group of 5 or 6 of us that have our birthday party every year there.
I know your birthday's always epic.
Yep, I have to be in London, so I'm not gonna be there this year.
Okay, well, I might have to find you somewhere else then.
But we'll definitely see each other somewhere on the earth.
Yes.
Thank you, Britt.
Thank you.
I have one question for you. Who is going to bring the fun?
You're in the honky tonk with Todd the Data Cowboy.